Here at the Giver Marketing Network, we don't leave you drifting out in space. We connect you to a coach who will help you build and grow your marketing business. Our process acts as a guide on how to connect with other businesses, maintain good relations, and establish a presence on the Giver Marketing Network. Each member within this collaborative group will have the opportunity to leverage your talent and influence, a true network effect. If you are looking to collaborate on more projects, welcome to the Giver Marketing Network, the most trusted and highest rated collective of specialists on the planet. Here we have a group of like-minded professionals who focus on making valuable introductions and helping each other grow by teaming up. Imagine Upwork meets a network and a coach. The talent collectively includes services like visibility and SEO, creating logos, designing websites, managing social media, outreach messaging, visual storytelling, and much more. Think of what you could do with laser-focused allies strengthening your business while offering your talent to the entire network. Click near this video for more information.
Hey, welcome everybody. I'm here with my friend Dustin Stout, founder of Magai, Magai.co. Want to welcome those watching live, those watching the replay. We're here streaming to the Giver Marketing Network and also Kingdom Warriors University. So we want to welcome you. If you have any questions, as we're kind of having a conversation around content, marketing, AI, all the good, fresh tools and resources we have available to us to do the jobs that we're called to do as marketing, communications, media professionals, those who are in business, that are leading teams, that are trying to get the word out effectively. So with that, Dustin, I wanted to ask you, what's your story? What, for those who haven't met you, or maybe they briefly met you and they want to know a little bit more of your origin, like where did you come from? Why are you even doing what you're doing?
Well, Timothy, I come from a land of mystical origin. No, I come from a small town in Pennsylvania. I was going to try and come up with something creative, but it's too early in the morning and I haven't finished my coffee yet, so I'm not fully there. My creative capacities have some waking up to do still. But I grew up in small town Pennsylvania, always, from as far as I can remember, had big city dreams. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to perform and tell stories on the big screen. And so I graduated high school, moved out to California, went to a prestigious acting school, and found out really quickly that in Hollywood, you have to be a celebrity to act. And if you're an actor, you wait tables. So I didn't really like waiting tables. And something in me, sort of from an early beginning, sparked this desire to be autonomous in my work. And, having gone through some ups and downs in the economy as a child, my stepdad who raised us, my mom, like the economy over where we grew up was very steel industry related, and it went through some ups and downs, and he went through a couple periods of unemployment. And I kind of saw this reality that like having a good job isn't as secure as society tells us it is. We can get laid off anytime. And it's not necessarily in our hands. And so I feel like I always had this kind of bug that I wanted to have my destiny in my own hands. And as an actor, you sort of do, right? You're putting yourself out there. You are sort of a business of you. But eventually it led me to, I was a youth director at a local nonprofit, and I had to learn how to reach my target audience, right? I was the director. My goal was to grow this youth ministry and reach teenagers. It just so happened the teenagers were on Facebook at the time. This was a long time ago, obviously. And so I learned how to use technology to reach my target audience because that's where they were. I had a knack for it. So naturally, as I learned more and started talking about it, I started a blog writing about social media, and that got some attention, and taught myself web design because I didn't want my blog to look ugly. I had this graphic design sort of skill, and that translated over to web design. And long story short, I ended up leaving that nonprofit because they didn't have the budget to pay me anymore. And so I started a business doing web design and consulting in the world of marketing. Fast forward 12 years later, I've owned an agency doing web design, SEO, social content, basically organic content marketing. And that was a wild journey. Like, it just kind of happened by accident. Marketing, a lot of it is telling stories, which meant I got to use my acting background to tell stories and my knowledge of human psychology to really, know how to communicate well. So yeah, it was just a kind of a weird, but also made sense as a progression, I guess. And, very quickly in the consulting world, I found out that I'm not necessarily built as a great consultant. Like, I was very good at the things that I did, and the things that I knew, and I loved doing things for clients, but I am a perfectionist. And so I am the kind of person that will spend an hour and a half trying to figure out how round should the button be. And that kind of a business doesn't scale very easily. So, it was a struggle to kind of like get outside of myself. And then I discovered digital products. I realized I could use that perfectionism, focus it on a digital product, sell that to many people, help many, many people. And that scales much easier for me. So once I got my first taste of that, I realized digital products is probably the better fit for me and for my unique skill set. And I've been creating digital products now since 2013, 2014.
So you're one of the early gentlemen who have jumped into some of these more modern digital products that include artificial intelligence, big data, these kind of pieces that kind of come together. And we love hearing what's kind of fresh and what's a mindset or an approach we can take to marketing, communication, media of all kinds. What can assist us? What can help us? What can come alongside us as a tool or a resource to be able to do our job better? Because it's funny, you see these predictions from like 100 years ago that people are going to be working 12 hours a day, 12 hours a week, not 12 hours a day. They're going to go from working 12 hours a day to 12 hours a week, and you're like, is that really going to happen? I don't know. We're too productive. Like, we have too much of a design characteristic that says let's get more done for good. And I see you as one of those folks that are helping us come into that next era of productivity and being able to get all the things done that we're hoping to get done. And obviously there are some tools like Magai that are really good to look at, but there's also governing principles. There's these principles of like, okay, when you use these type of tools, what should you consider, and what is maybe a bit of a time consideration? Like, is this really what you need to do in order to do that? So I love that your product is a time saver and a content creator all at the same time. So super fun. I know you have some visuals for us, kind of a little bit of a show and tell today that will help us understand some of what you're going to be presenting. You want to just jump right into that, Dustin? Is now a good time to do that?
Sure. Yeah. So today, I mean, a lot of us here in this network are marketers. And so we understand the concept of creating marketing content. And so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about the concepts because we understand the concepts. I'm broadcasting into my Magai Masterminds group. So hello, everyone. Some of you there might not be marketers. So if you have questions about this, we can talk about that later. But the core of it is, this idea that content is a way that we build trust with our target audience. It's the way that we build authority. It's the way that we display that we are knowledgeable in our field, whether that's our business's field or our personal expertise. And it's also how we entertain and capture the attention of the audience that we're looking for. And it's how I learned to attract my early target audience to our little youth ministry. And content has served me very well. I've built several companies strictly on organic content. And one of the things that AI is exceptionally good at is helping you come up with that content faster, with more efficiency, and without depleting your creative capacities. So I look at creativity almost like a tank that we have. And we only have so much energy throughout the day. We only have so much creativity before our minds are completely burnt out and we need sleep. AI doesn't have that problem. So we can lean on it in a creative capacity to help us, extend its, in a sense, supplement our own creativity. And that's what it's really great at. So I'm going to share some tactics and some practical application of how I'm using it and how many marketers are using it to develop marketing content for a brand, for a client, for themselves. And I'm going to show you some higher level tricks that maybe the entry level AI people maybe aren't aware of and haven't utilized just yet. And of course, I am going to be using the product that I created. I do want to disclose that you could potentially do these same tactics in any chat AI tool, in a sense. It's going to be more difficult and harder. I specifically built my tool with these things in mind. So that's why I'm using it to kind of save time. But in practice and in theory and in the concept of what I'm going through, you could technically do in ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, as it's called now, formerly known as Bard. It will just be a little bit harder, and we'll see why. So we're going to go through three three items on the agenda here. So number one is having the right voice for our content. This is something the marketers should be familiar with. You should know that if you have a brand, if you're building content for a brand, then every piece of content that you create should be in your voice. Your audience should get used to hearing the words, the type of words that you use, the language that you formulate, the structure of how you put things. Your brand voice is important because, in the Bible, it says, my sheep know my voice. But in marketing, your audience should know your voice. They should see something and go, oh yeah, that's totally them. Because
is that like the language choice, the tone, like you were just
choice, tone, word selection, even how you phrase things and the length of things. So all of this kind of matters in building a brand that's trustworthy and consistent that our audience can love, know, like, and trust. And then the right audience. So if you don't know who it is you're creating content for, you're going to create content that is generic, that is not, that doesn't connect to the individual. So you really want to hone in who that audience is. And there are some tactics we can use with AI to help us focus that. And then, of course, the right AI.
Let's talk about audience for just 1 second, Dustin. You're probably going to get to some of these things a little bit later, but I can't wait. I want to dig in just a little bit because this is an ever changing, more important conversation. All of these are, but that audience question. Can you give us an example of like, who is your audience for Magai, or who is your audience that you're hoping to speak to right now? Even though there's others around the edges, who is your core audience that, like, if they're listening right now, they need to really lean in and pay attention because you can really solve a problem for them?
Yeah, so I tend to speak a lot to the person that's like me. So I am a solo business owner. I have the weight of the world on my shoulders every day trying to grow my business and wear all the hats. And anybody who is a solo business owner or a freelancer understands that weight of, I have so many things to do, right? So my target audience for much of what I do, even though we have different target audiences, different verticals that we reach out to. Magai is kind of going into universities and enterprises, but for all of you business owners like me who go, but my product applies to all the things, pick one, start with that, and then go forward. For me, it's the solo business owner and the solopreneur who's out there. Maybe it's a side hustle at the moment, but they're trying to grow it into a full-time business.
Yeah.
But they're working on all the things themselves. And so they need a little help from technology to help them boost their productivity and get more done in less time with less.
Maybe they have a small team that's starting to develop, but
team,
they need
VA,
some
maybe a couple
tools.
part-timers. Yeah.
Yep.
But very much
I
still
think that's
small, lots of hats that they're wearing, lots of weight on their shoulders, and big ambitions to grow.
what's amazing about that audience, because we speak to a lot of marketing professionals, right? So we're talking quite a bit to the lonelypreneurs in the marketing space. Ha ha ha. We play with that a little bit and have some fun with that, because we've all been there. Like, how else do you start? You start as a lonelypreneur in the XYZ space, and then you build your little team if you want to do that, and then at that point you have more options, because you have more you can bring in more tools, more support, and all this. So I love the fact that you can just zero in and say, look, if you're like me and you either are rocking it solo or have a micro team that's just coming up, you can bring in some of these resources and literally double the effectiveness of your time in some of these aspects of your work. So I appreciate you mentioning that. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, but so once you have the right voice, the right audience, the right AI is essential, because not all AI is created equal. You have many different companies who are in this arms race to create the best AI, but they all have different opinions of how that AI should work, or how the processes in which the AI decides what to say or what to produce is determined. So you have the open AIs of the world, where their models tend to be more creative. They tend to be more expressive. They have like a higher degree of emotional connection, seemingly, and emotional word choices. And then you have the Anthropics of the world, probably OpenAI's greatest competitor besides Gemini or in Google, Anthropic, where they kind of focus on accuracy. They focus on safety. And so that kind of determines the type of output that the AI model is capable of producing. And then you have the Geminis of the world, which is just having a hard time. I don't know if you heard any of the things that Gemini's going through, but huge potential, lots of things going wrong in there, but they're working it out. They're moving fast and breaking things, and then fixing things, obviously. So you have all these different AI models, and many of them capable of many things, but sometimes better at other things than others. So I'm going to kind of do a brief synopsis of like how to choose the right one. But more than that, many people don't realize that we can mold these AIs to better suit our purposes by just giving it a few contextual instructions. And I'm going to walk through that. So the right AI, not necessarily the right model, but really talking about how do we take that model and really make it better for our explicit purposes.
Apply it appropriately, bolt it on in a way that makes sense for us. It's not a one size fits all anymore.
Right.
It might have been in the early days, but now we're kind of evolving. The trunk is evolving into these massive limbs of awesomeness, right? Like it's starting to develop. So we got to figure out what limbs we want to play on and how we want to use that for our purposes, and start building our little treehouse, if you want to keep using that analogy. But I love the fact that you're getting into the details of, okay, now that you've played with 2 or 3 of these tools, or you've maybe wanting to jump in, I'm going to give you some direction. This is how you use these tools, whether it's Magai or whether it's one of the other ones. This is how you use the tools. So let's go. I'm excited.
Yeah. So I'll give you this last slide here. If we can bring that, I don't know if I can bring it up. So kind of tying into that last concept, the real power of AI, and this is why it's the third point and not the first, because I think if we build that foundation first, we can then really see how this last point drives everything home. The real power of AI is that it can be whatever or whoever you need it to be. You just have to guide it in the right direction. And Some tools make it easier. Some tools make it harder. Some tools make it impossible. And so hopefully I can demonstrate exactly how you can use Magai to make your life a whole lot easier and produce this marketing content with all of those points in mind. So that being said, I will go ahead and just show you how to do it, show you exactly how I, on a day-to-day basis, am approaching this and how many marketers are as well. Let me share my screen. I'm going to open up my dashboard here in Magai. So the question at hand is, how do we produce marketing content? Number one, in our voice. Number two, for our audience. And number three, with the right AI. So I'm going to start a brand new chat in Magai. Now, by default, usually you'll be on the GPT-4 Turbo model. Magai allows you to choose any AI model that you want. We have a selection of the best AI models in the world.
Wait,
By
pause
default,
right
you're
there.
usually-
I mean, there's like a dozen right there. Like, can you? Because some people are like, "What the heck did I just? What is just happening right now? This is amazing. I can jump into all of this at one time." Like, people who haven't used the tool, they're trying to figure this out. Like, can you
Yeah.
explain what's going on?
Yeah, thanks for slowing me down. So with Magai, the goal is to bring all the world's best AI models into one place so that you don't have to go subscription hopping every time one of them comes out with a new feature that beats the other one. This, like I mentioned before, this is an arms race. And so Google's going to create something that's like, oh my gosh, now that's the best. I have to go over here. And then OpenAI is going to come up with their new video model. You're like, oh, now I need an OpenAI account. And then Claude's going to upgrade itself. And then you're going to have to do all the subscription hopping and account hopping. With Magai, the goal is have it all in one place. When OpenAI updates their model, Magai gets an upgrade. When Gemini upgrades their model, Magai gets the upgrade. So all these models are really just me finding the best models in the world for the purposes of my target audience and what they need, and putting them in one place so they don't have to subscription hop. They just know they're going to get the best, most advanced AI models right within the same interface. They don't have to relearn a new app and relearn a new process and duct tape all their other systems together. They can have it all in one place. And
All right, I want to personally thank you for saving me hundreds of hours worth of time.
I just probably hundreds of dollars in multiple subscriptions.
Exactly, right. And our hours are worth more than a few dollars. So,
Yes,
so thank you for all of that. Just the resource saving tool. So, all right, keep going, man. We could brag about all the fact that all these things are in one place and this and that, and we can go through each one of them, but that's not what we're doing today. So, just the fact that we have that available, just amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm just going to choose the default. GPT-4 is kind of like the default. It's the best overall model for most purposes. So I'm going to choose that one. Now, the first thing we want to start with, right, is the right voice. We want to make sure that our brand has the right the right voice. It's going to be consistent and it's going to resonate with our target audience, which we'll get to next. And so, what if you're not good at coming up with a brand voice? Spoiler alert, I'm not good at it myself. So I use AI to come up with a brand voice. And how do we do that? So one wonderful thing about generative AI today is that you can just tell it what you need in plain human language, and it gives it to you. So I would start with a prompt that says something like, I need to come up with a brand voice for my business. Now,
is it possible to make your screen a little bit bigger, Dustin, or is that not possible at this point?
I don't know that it is. I could zoom in. Does that help?
Yeah, keep doing that. Yep, keep doing what you're doing. Yep,
that's
good? Looking good. Thank you for that. Just for my eyeballs.
Sure, yeah. So I'll say I need to come up with a brand voice for my business. Now I could stop there. And most people do. They just give it the first phrase that comes to their mind and say, I need this, and then hope that the AI does the right thing. But I'm gonna teach you a tactic or a technique that will help you to come up with much better output whenever you're doing any task in AI. And
so you're gonna help us saving time.
Yeah, it's gonna save you time. It's gonna come up with better output. And the trick is understand that it only knows what you tell it. So if I were to just say, I need to come up with a brand voice for my business, there's some assumptions there that I'm making that the AI isn't capable of making. So number one, it has to know what my business is, right? And it has to know what my business is about, or what kind of brand voice I want. And maybe I don't know the answer to that question. So here's one little phrase you can add to your prompt that will drastically improve your results.
So we're in the driver's seat. In other words, like, what are we wanting to do here? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So add this one little phrase. Ask me all the questions you need me to answer in order for you to produce a brand voice for me. You see the distinction there. So I'm not just giving it a task to do, because the AI will just kind of invent stuff. If it doesn't know information or backstory or context that it needs to know, most likely it's just going to make it up, right? So what we do is we tell it first, I want you to ask me all the questions you need to know in order to do that job well. And so when we do that, we send it off to the AI, and GPT-4 is pretty good at this. It's probably going to give me a long list of questions. There it is. What is your business name? What do you offer? Who is your target audience? Okay, good. It's already thinking through that. Core values and beliefs. How do you want a brand to make people feel? So it's given us good stuff to really chew on here. And that will help us hone our brand voice. And what I would simply do at this point is I would go point by point and answer these questions as best as I can. For the sake of time, I'm not going to do that, okay? Because this will take a little bit of time, a little bit of thinking. But this is how you would start the whole process of, first, let's get our voice honed in, right? And so once we get that brand voice honed in, what we can do inside of Magai is we can do two things. So once the AI has kind of given us our brand voice, we can save it as a prompt. And so the idea is we're going to have that brand voice, we're going to hone it in, and we're going to use that in the future to have the AI produce content in that brand voice. And so we need to be able to carry this brand voice over to different conversations. Or reuse it again and again when we produce more and more content down the line. So we want to save that so that we don't have to like retype it out every time or save it somewhere else. Thankfully, inside of Magai, we can save prompts to our account and kind of have a library of reusable prompts. And
this is one of the biggest features, right, of the tool, because I go over to this, this language learning model or this AI tool, and they're not able to cross pollinate. They're not able to work together. And like there are many times when I'll go from one to another until I ran into Magai. I was spending a lot of time copying and pasting over and trying to figure things out. Right.
Right. Yeah. So one of the conveniences that I needed to build for myself, because I wanted it, was this ability to save prompts. And then in a single click, you click on the saved prompt and it can be added to your prompt here. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Never have to drag and copy and then paste ever again. Nice. That's the first way. Now, the second way actually is a much higher level. It is a way more advanced way of making sure that not only does the AI know what your brand voice should be and is instructed to produce content in that way, but the AI sees that as its most important objective, to state your brand voice. So many people don't realize that every AI model they use has a set of instructions called a system message that it is its highest priority to adhere to. So whenever you started a conversation in ChatGPT, you don't see these instructions. You don't know what that system message is because it's like sort of behind the scenes. But every prompt you give it is sort of filtered through this system message instruction that the AI is its highest priority to follow. which is why you get a lot of very friendly fluff with your comments, because this AI is following its system level instructions, which is you are a helpful assistant. So everything is sort of seen through that lens for the AI. But if you are able to take your brand voice and instead of using it as just a prompt to insert that as the system level message, your brand voice then becomes the highest priority for the AI to adhere to, making much better results. And that's something that we call personas in Magai. So a persona is essentially a set of system level instructions that is inserted into the AI, into your conversation in the back end, making it its highest priority. So I've actually crafted a brand voice. So let me search for my brand voice, Dustin's voice. And this is one that I created. And I basically what I did in Magai is, because I had a bunch of blog posts that I used in the past, I added articles. You can add links in Magai and it just can read the web page for that link. You don't have to
Hold on. You just said something that somebody might miss. You can what?
Yeah. So I guess I can demonstrate it. So that was
This is not you forget.
Sneak that by you for the sake of
My
time.
maestro friend, you forget the power of just that one statement right there, because you've been in it for so long. You just take it for granted, but it's not. Like, tell us more. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So let me demonstrate it, because I think it'll be easier to understand. So so the AI has given us these things to answer. So what I'll say instead here is use the following info to answer all those questions for yourself. I'm just going to type a link. Now, Magai is built to recognize URLs in your prompt. And so when I submit this prompt, what Magai is going to do is it's first going to go to that URL. It's going to scrape all of the text from the page. It's going to read it, and it's going to bring it over into the chat. It's going to attach it like it did here. And if I click on that attachment, you can see all the text from the page has been added as an attachment to my prompt. AIs can't read web pages unless they have sort of that ability built in. Most of them don't have it intrinsically. So we have to add it into our prompts as an attachment. And now here's what happened is GPT-4 was able to read the content of my website just by pasting a link. And so essentially what I've done is I've said, here's some information already, use that. And what I did to create my brand voice is I kind of gave it several different URLs, one after another. And I said, analyze this author's voice and tone and come up with a brand voice that matches that voice and tone. So
how many times are you wanting to like watch a video or skim through a website in preparation for a meeting or a proposal or a presentation? And it's just not only for your own brand voice, but just to get an idea of somebody else's content or brand voice, like just prepare for something important. Like this is such a time saver. I don't know how many hours I've spent just researching a company before I do a proposal or talk with the team or close the deal, or like, this is a big deal. Big deal.
Yeah. I mean, huge time saver, huge.
Yeah.
So one last thing, I guess we'll see this through to the end here. In this particular step is
good luck.
I'm just going to say, now turn all this into a description of a brand voice for an AI to be instructed on. Now, I might go back and forth with this and really fine tune the instructions here. But again, for the sake of time, we're going to kind of speed through it. And so the AI is going to turn all the info that I just gave it into hopefully a succinct brand voice instruction. And then we'll see exactly how we can turn this into our own persona.
You're a fast typer, man. That's pretty good.
Thanks. A lot of practice.
Just typing that out would take me 45 minutes. Good gracious.
Okay. So this is pretty extensive, right? This is a pretty lengthy one, but it should do just well. Let me go ahead and do this inside of Magai. We're doing pretty good on time, I think. So in Magai, we have a section called Custom Personas. We can create a new persona. We can name it Magai's brand voice. And we're just going to paste that in. And I'm just going to add a simple line beforehand. You are Magi. This is your brand voice. You adhere to it completely.
It's like you're instructing a genius, basically, to do, be more direct, kind of direct a genius to do a lot of insanely complex work.
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and save this persona. Okay, so now it's in there, and we can go and we can start a new chat, because our next chat, and let me go ahead and find it in here. So another great thing about Magi is you can quickly find your personas by just searching Magi's brand voice. There's the demo brand voice I created. I can select it, and there we go. It's active. So now we have GPT-4, who is now instructed as its most important instruction to utilize my brand's voice. Okay. So now we need a target audience, right? And so we would kind of take that same conceptual approach, right, with the AI, with what we want to produce. So we would tell it bluntly what our objective is. We need to identify our target audience, right? So we're on point 2 now, the right audience. Ask me everything you need to know to help me identify my brand target audience. And again, it's going to use that same that
Kind of
same
logic,
of
right? It's that
asking
same.
us what it needs to know.
Okay.
And so it's going to walk us through, even if you are the worst at, or you don't know the first thing about like identifying a target audience, it's going to give you everything you need to identify that target audience. And you can kind of go through each one of these and answer those questions, spec that out, and it will come up with, the answer that you're looking for. So I'm going to do a little trick here, again, based on the following. Please come up with a target audience for me, answering all the questions you have. So I'm going to cheat again, just have it read the website and make up a target audience for me, right? So there's probably a lot of people in the audience that are like, I don't want to come up with it by myself because it's too painful. Well, you can use this trick as well, I guess. So it's going to make this stuff up. But again, I'm feeding it my website information. And one little tip here is it's good to not identify it as a link, because again, what Magi is going to do, it's going to scrape the page and attach the text. So the AI is not actually seeing a web page, it's seeing a bunch of text. And so sometimes if you say, read this website or read this link, it'll get confused because it knows it doesn't have that ability. So we just kind of identify it as information that is attached.
So we're guiding this roaring, like just high volume amount of information into one succinct, possibly applicable, possibly useful language set that we can play with, and we can start using like putty and just start moving it around and doing some different things that it may not be 100% perfect for application right out the box, but there's like 90% of this is like gold probably. And you're just trying to figure out how to dust off the rest of it and make it really shiny and work for you is what I'm using a bunch of analogies so people's minds can start thinking about what is actually happening here. Is that fairly accurate?
Yeah. It's pretty much it. We're using the AI to take what we know and learn from it, but also to sort of help us shortcut a lot of the research and the information
Gathering and
we're really shortcutting a lot of that sort of homeworky, researchy type stuff and
Okay.
allowing the AI to sort of just assimilate it into what it needs, and then it can produce stuff for us. And so from here, I'm just going to give it one last thing. I'm going to say succinctly describe a specific target customer for me. And so the goal here is we're trying to find like an individual target audience avatar, I guess is the marketing term that we use for it. We're trying to come up with an avatar. And so this is great. Your specific target customer is blah, 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 blah. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this. Now that that's helped me identify this target audience, I'm going to save this as a prompt. And I'm just
I was just reading through that, man. It's almost like what you said earlier. Like it's actually doing a pretty good. I mean, it's even more detailed in some ways.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It really is kind of magical in what it can do. Now,
Maybe
AI
not perfect, but it's really close to good. Right?
And that's the thing. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. As long as it cuts down 80 to 90% of our work, like it's much easier to go through and go, oh, we'll change that word or remove that phrase and maybe rewrite this one, rather than looking at a blank page and going, I don't know where to start.
I hear a lot of people say, man, this is you and you used the word cheating earlier. You know what? I'm gonna wait on that question until we have our panel together, because it's gonna be a lively conversation. Help us land the plane here. Like obviously we can apply this. I mean, it's like we don't even need to explain like how valuable this is. Like this is super important.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. So I'm going to start a new conversation now. Now, why am I creating a new conversation every time I want to do one of these tasks? Well, it's important to know that like the AI sees the whole context of the conversation. So when I have a new objective, I'm starting a new conversation because I don't want that new objective to be in any way influenced or diluted by the previous conversation. Like that's why I'm saving the persona of the brand voice as a persona, so we can use that as context, succinct context, because all these AI, they have a memory limit. And then I'm saving this target customer as a prompt, a succinct prompt that I can then add to the next objective. And that way I'm not diluting the conversation too much, and I'm being as laser effective as I can. Okay, so we've got GPT-4 Turbo. We've got our brand voice down. It knows how to write things in our brand voice. And we've got a saved prompt that identifies our target customer. Now, the right AI, again, going back to what I talked about in the beginning, every AI has different capabilities, right? I'm choosing GPT-4 Turbo here because what we're doing is a creative task. GPT-4 tends to be the more creative of the AI models.
Kind of the more broad and creative and outside the box kind of thinking.
Yeah,
right.
Better at creating new ideas and creating new things. Whereas something like a Claude is much better at accuracy and safety. So it tends to be less creative because it doesn't want to invent things or
they're literally like personalities. This is crazy.
Yeah, they really are. Gemini Pro, it's just a little weird right now. They're in a growing phase. Gemini Pro is great for blog content. I will say that. Google probably knows more than anybody about articles. So it does write really great articles. But we're using this for a creative task. We want it to create a marketing content strategy for us. And so here's what I'm going to do, utilizing our brand voice. So that's the AI's highest priority, is to speak in our brand voice. And I'm going to say, I need to come up with some marketing content for our brand.
So as you land the plane, I'm going to bring in some of the of our panel just to kind of be in real time with us. So here we go. Let's rock this.
All right. So I should have done this first. So I just clicked on our target customer saved prompt, and so it automatically put that in the prompt here for us. No copy and paste required. And now I'm just going to supplement this with I need to come up with some marketing content for our brand Magai. Here is our target customer, right? So we've got that in there. Go to the bottom. Please give me some ideas for marketing content that will entertain, educate, and attract our target. And the AI is going to get to work doing exactly that. And from there, what you would want to do, obviously, is take a look at what it produces. So it's going to give us a bunch of ideas, success stories, series, Creators Unleashed. Oh, that's a cool idea. Interactive webinars, blog series, challenge campaign. And what you can do once you have these ideas is you can kind of take them one by one and say, which of these do we want to sort of drill into? And then you can do that right within the same chat. And so you can say something like a blog series, behind the screens. So you can say to the AI, let's drill into number 3, because it knows what number 3 is, and get some specific ideas for that. And it'll give us some specific ideas for number 3, which is a blog series. So, and then it's giving us some blog titles now. And it's giving us a synopsis.
So I feel like we're going down into the depths of awesomeness, into the rich soil of this type of tool. And I want to be careful because we have, 5 or 6 7 marketing professionals here live with us. And we could be here for like 5 hours, just like doing a master class or a mastermind around just how to do this, like how to literally like take our game to a whole nother level. Right. And it's almost like a learning experience meets a content creation experience all at the same time. So I'm just like, this is super immersive, like radical. And some folks are like, yeah, AI is cool, but I don't really use it. I'm here to say, take your humility level to a whole nother, like take your humility level and like relook at that mindset, because it's a lot like a farmer saying, I'm not going to use farming tools to improve the efficiency of the output of our crops. Like there's ways to do this, like even just like certain systems, watering systems, just like certain things you do as a farmer, even just to kind of get more produce. This is one of those once every 100-year kind of tools that is super interesting. So with that, I'm opening up the Pandora's box of questions for the panel to say, okay, what do we need to know? And we can bring down the screen share for now, Dustin, because there's so much more. There's so much more. We just don't have time to do that. But thank you for giving us kind of just a picture of whether we're using this tool, or this tool. We can certainly use these same prompts and same approaches and same mindsets and application. But what questions do we have in the room? Unmute yourself for just a minute as you're asking the question. We might have some, we always tend to have a good question or two in the room. So who has the first question for Dustin?
I love it. And so I'm thinking you start with the idea and then you can just run down a rabbit hole. I mean, for me, I'm just thinking, gosh, I've got the concept now and you can actually write it. If I wanted to teach a class on this, I could ask for an outline, right? I mean, my mind is just keeps spinning on all the possibilities and how to use this. I don't even know where to start. Like you taught us new toys today that I didn't even know about, right? My mind's blown. So the idea of using a persona above is the primary one, because I work with multiple clients, right? So I have the brands and I know there's a brand feature in there. So would you use a specialized persona in addition to the brand? Is that?
Yeah, in terms of how Magai is set up for brands, actually this week we're going to be transitioning that term brands to workspaces, because it's just a more accurate representation of what brands are. Really what brands are in Magai is a space in which you can segment the interface. So you don't get your one client stuff mixed in with your other client stuff, right? It's a way to sort of manage different clients for those who are working with clients, or different departments for companies that have different departments. They want to assign people to specific departments. It just kind of keeps things separate. It's a separator for your different workspaces, which is why we're changing the name. But the idea is to create a persona in that workspace or for that brand that you can then access for that brand. So
you can have multiple workspaces, multiple layers within the workspaces. It kind of gets segmented out as much as you want or as little as you want, depending on how you want to use the tool. I have a question here from one of our power partners and folks that we're working with. They're basically in the edtech space, kind of changing the world one student at a time. He wants to know how we use this with like actual existing languages and applying this to education. He also mentioned some other things here, customized for each language group. He's kind of his mind is super creative, so like he'll go into things like this and start looking at like just various like etymology of words. Like can AI be an assistant or help in kind of forming these type of ed tech or educational kind of projects?
Absolutely. Just with a few thoughtful phrases in your prompt, you can guide the AI in that direction. So my wife is actually she's an English language arts teacher at a local middle school. So she teaches 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And so with very simple context added to your prompt, your goal is, say, I want to teach an English lesson on, I don't know, adjectives.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I guess I'm going to teach an English lesson on adjectives for Eastern Slavic accents at the 8th grade level.
No kidding.
Give that to the AI. Give it as much of those details as you can, and say, come up with a curriculum or some talking points for my lesson on XYZ.
Okay, so this leads into a more controversial question, and we were going to get here at some point. So let's land the plane with a little bit of spice, shall we? All right. I'm an educator. I'm used to doing things this way. I'm being told from my higher ups, kind of like back in the day when calculators first came out, like, don't let the kids use this for their assignments. But then at the same time, I'm looking at the tool and I'm going, this could help me as a professor. Like, this can help me as a teacher. This can help me as an educator. This can help me as a trainer. Like, how can I help us wrestle with this just a little bit, Dustin, because you do have the long hair. You kind of have this like angelic kind of vibe going on. Like, give us some ideas of how to even just wrestle with this. Don't give us the answers. Just give us the approach, because you've been in the space so deep for quite a long time now. Like, how do we think about this?
Yeah, and I think I'm very fortunate that my wife is an educator, so I do have to think about these things very deeply. And we have several. The educational district around here is now becoming Magai users, and I'm speaking with universities. University of Notre Dame, ASU is also a Magai user. So I'm having to think about these things, and I'm having to wrestle with this idea myself. And I think there is a tension there that we need to hold. Ultimately, what AI is, again, and I've said this earlier on, is a supplement to our knowledge, a supplement to our creativity. And any marketer in here can tell you, they can probably look at the marketing content that the AI came up with and go, well, it's not the best. It's good. It's a great starting point, but because of my knowledge, because of my expertise, I know how it can make it better, and it shortcuts my work.
Okay. So it's a resource, it's a help, it's an assistant, but it's not.
So it's not a replacement to expertise. It's an enhancement. And this is why it's dangerous to use for kids. If all kids are using it for is just to get the answers out, they're not actually learning. The goal of a teacher is to teach these kids how to think about problems and how to solve problems. And so what the AI's risk is that we have to acknowledge is that they will just miss the lesson. They'll miss learning the core values. And so we have to be careful with that. But for a teacher,
so help me with this. So we're let's look at this from a we're working with Rich on these different towers of learning, and one of them's the math tower. Okay, and so I'm looking at this. I'm going, okay, before calculators. Thanks, Christine. That's awesome. Before calculators, we had to teach in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
After calculators, the electronic, or even the pre-electronic versions of calculators that were readily available, easy to use, started flooding into the education system. Then the tests and the way we taught had to change just a little bit to facilitate the modern technology of the calculator. Do you feel like we're going to go that direction in basically modifying so that we can still help the student learn, but still embrace the technology?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're constantly evolving as a culture. We're learning new things, and we're doing things as our knowledge increases and the tools at our disposal increase. We are constantly adapting, I guess is a better word, to how technology. And
sorry, guys, I totally hijacked the questions for Dustin because I'm like, I want to ask Dustin these questions. I'm like super interested. Okay, so Tim, Joel, Christine, JD, like who else has one or two last questions as we land here today?
Honestly, I don't have a whole ton of questions because what you had showed us will actually just revolutionize the way I'm actually looking at my marketing. Just by having that brand persona is going to save me so much time. And I sit there and I'm like, well, I'm going to have to find a way to, like, it's going to save me so much time, but now I can actually focus on the other things that I need to focus on.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. I don't really have a question. It's just a comment of like, thank you.
JD, what about your customer support, like scripting or different phrasing or different, maybe experimenting with different ways of approaching a conversation? I know that AI isn't truly, in the deepest sense of the word, emotionally intelligent, but if you mix emotional intelligence with all the artificial intelligence, it becomes pretty special, right?
Well, and there is the benefit with that. It's like when you can put all of your templates into it and have a customer service persona, so to speak.
Ooh.
What you can do is you can give your customer service agents the opportunity to actually be like, all right, this is the general template, and it could be slightly different every time. And then you just go in and adjust it based on the previous information that they've had with the client.
So it's a building knowledge base. Wow.
You can literally use it as a knowledge base for your customer service agents to wow the customers.
Come on, man. Okay, so any last questions? Because we're going to give away a deep discount, so you can try Magai. We can roll that across the screen again, Christine. It's magai.co/giver, Giver, magai.co/giver. That'll get you where you need to go, and it'll explain everything. But any last questions from Tim or Joel?
One big question is, when is Magai going to have a master class?
Ooh.
I mean, I've been in a handful of presentations where Magai's been, explained or used as a platform. And every time I pick up a different thing that Magai can do, right? And I've instructed my staff to say, get in there and learn this thing, right? Because in the end, I'm paying by the hour to 5 or 6 people. The last thing I want them to do is sit around going, I don't know what to do. So get in there and learn it, right? Get it going, maximize our time. So I would love to say, hey, we could get some kind of, deep dive masterclass, interactive, 3 or 4 hours worth of really heavy duty interaction. I would be on board to sponsor that.
Yeah, so I'll tell everyone this, that we're about to enter a season with Magai where I can finally free myself from having to be in development and in the product all day, every day. That was really my focus from the beginning. I just wanted to make the best product possible, and that consumed all of my time and energy. So I've had almost zero time for creating a library of instructional videos, creating good onboarding, and just not being able to create the educational content that I need to. Number one, because I'm in it, but also because the product is evolving so quickly that things are changing. But we're entering into a season now where I am able to hire on some full-time developers. So I don't have to do the development anymore. And my entire focus for my energy is to go into the educational content creation to help people learn not just how to use Magai and get the most out of it. That's definitely priority one, a library of how-to videos for how to use Magai, but also like AI in general. And so the Facebook community that we have, the Facebook group Magai Masterminds, is for Magai users. And so I'll be doing a weekly live stream in there, hopefully on Fridays, if it works out. But where I'll basically do an open office hours. I'll have something on the agenda and be teaching like this one thing, almost like a small masterclass, diving into one particular feature or one strategy or one thing, but also leave some room for questions and answers as well. But then, blog posts, articles, help library, support library, documentation, all of that is going to be my focus this next season of Magai.
Well, you're growing so fast, Dustin. There's so many new users and others telling others that it's just a matter of time before this becomes an extremely, it's time. It's time. So super interesting. Magai Mastermind. Look it up on Facebook for the group. Ask to jump in. Mention Giver if you have to, just to make sure you get front row seats. And Joel,
we snagged Dustin, I'm going to admit, with Nemosa.art. So we've got him on the calendar for June 15th, a Saturday 4-hour Magai class.
Yeah.
So sneak peek. We haven't announced it yet, but we already snagged him for that because great minds think alike, Joel.
Love it. So there's some things in the works. Look up Dustin Stout, Magai on search engines or Facebook. Find a way to get over to magai.co/giver just to kind of play around with it for a while and get yourself familiar with that and jump into a masterclass. That'll be good. And then Christine, we don't want to overload the audience too much, but we also always like to bolt on at the very end of our broadcast a way for folks to jump in with you and have conversations about marketing for every Wednesday. If you want to jump in and grab a spot here, we'll answer questions about like how to get a hold of Dustin, how to white label, how to leverage tools, how to generate resources for your marketing company, especially for marketing professionals. This is what this is for. This is for marketers. Okay. So if you want to jump in there, then we love to rescue the lonelypreneurs of the world that are trying to rock it in the marketing, communication, and media space. So start right there if that's you. Tim, we're going to have to kind of close up the broadcast, but we'll stay around for after hours here, VIP back, green room dynamics here. But next time we'll have a lot more questions for you, Dustin. We look forward to that. So thank you again. God bless you guys. We'll see you soon.